your place the other day. Yeah, for that wake for Kenny Defoe Jr. Yeah. That's my son's first cousin. Yeah, so. Oh, is he? Oh, from the phone side, yeah. Yeah, I was looking at all the people there, like the Reynolds, like my mom was a Reynolds. So a lot of that, and that one Reynolds guy had like lots of families, some down in Hollywood. I was looking at a lot of those folks in my mom's first cousin. And so, yeah. And of course, then like Jerry, Kenny's mom was a Benjamin. So I'm very into that. Yeah. That's how I learned from that.
Similar situation up there. You're using yourself.
Yeah.
Now I understand why we have such
Yeah.
But you start talking more. It's my dad, this cousin,
Yeah.
you know, I'm married, my uncle married.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that man or the woman, they might have been with like a couple of the brothers or a couple of the sisters. Same thing, that's how that is. Yeah, I know it. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good, good. Oh, yeah.
Some have the same name. Yeah. So you know, yeah, in like his wife passed 3 months ago. Well, that's my first cousin. That's my first cousin too. So is that second or third husband are niece? I'm singing.
Bonjour, good morning everybody, Minnesota Chippewa. Welcome to Boys Sport. We are going to get started with our invocation. And I have Vern Adams here for Boys Sport to do the invocation. So I guess we'll get started.
Bonjour.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Kathy. Welcome to our Zoom attendees. Eventually, we will be able to be whatever is considered back to normal, but I want to thank everybody for coming today. We will start now the meeting by calling the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Okay, hi everybody, this is Gary. You don't have a camera on me, but can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, roll call, Kathy Shavers,
Here.
Dave Morrison. Here. Bobby DeShaft.
Here.
April McCormick.
Here.
Evan Dupas.
Here.
Ferdinand Martineau.
Here.
Melanie Benjamin.
Here.
Sheldon Boyd.
Here.
Mike Fairbanks.
Oh.
Alan Roy.
Nino Ma.
Barry Jackson.
Here.
Archie LaRose.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, with that, next we have approval of the agenda.
Yeah, excuse me, Madam President, before we approve the agenda, I just wanna do a point of order where we voted to have clarification instead of discussion on the issue that, we're having this meeting about. So I wanna change that, clarification instead of discussion
Okay.
provided by Alan Roy, clarification, and we'll take it from there.
Okay.
And Madam President, I did want to bring to your attention, I know the chairman and I from White Earth Nation
Yes.
had emailed we're going to be sending over a resolution pertaining to wild rice and waters. A lot of folks may have heard that we're experiencing a drought in our part of the state, and our wild rice, our rice beds are, they're not looking too good right now, and so we're quite worried about it. There's some water permitting process done by the state of Minnesota that we have a lot of concerns around, especially when it comes to bodies of water on or near reservations. And so the chairman and I, White Earth Nation, will submit that resolution to the TEC for consideration and to the legal team. Mr. Chair, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I know that there's been some, articles out there, and I know that we looked at, I know our legal teams looked at, like, some of the permitting from, the Commissioner of Natural Resources, that they upped their, water, to 5 billion gallons of water. So I know there's probably concerns all across where Line 3's at, where they're pulling the water from, so I know across the multiple reservations, and of course, we're all concerned about our rice beds, so something that we just wanted to submit something in writing to the TEC to look for consideration, to hopefully that we can stick together and, combat this together, so.
I want to say, Jimmy, which to you for making me aware of the issue, because being this far north, we had no idea what was going on down at White Earth. And I appreciate the letter, because sometimes, when you're so far north like we are, we just don't get that information. And I appreciate the information, because wild rice is our staple, it's who we are. And so by them taking 5 billion gallons of water out of a lake, that's a lot of water, and our rice needs that to grow. And so I want to, again, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I don't know if anybody else was aware of it, but I wasn't. And so if we could, with that resolution, we do have a July meeting coming up. And if we need to, we will put that resolution on that July meeting. You'll have it ready by then?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. Jimmy Gwitch. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda with that clarification instead of discussion added? Moved by Alan, is there a second?
Okay.
Second by Ferdinand, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Welcome congressional delegates, how do you like that, huh? Woo! Welcome constitutional delegates to the meeting. You do have the floor. Who's you?
Ashikawa Dikido, Makwali Dude, Mokish Kamale Dude, Sound Fine Day, Beach Lake Band of Ojibwe. I'm here today to present a resolution that was it's been 2 years since we've been making the discussion. I at Beach Lake have been to nearly every community. We have 15 outlying communities, and I've been to them, and when people hear about the distress that we're in, the fact that we are ultimately going to eliminate ourselves from history, and that this has been impressed upon us, I think that it's important for us at this time, and people that were at the meeting on the 18th, there was a lot of agreement. After the meeting, there was some dissension, which is, probable. But I'm going to put forth this amendment today, and I'm going to let everybody here know that I know that each and every one of us has family members who aren't going to be enrolled. I currently have 2 grandchildren who will not be enrolled if we don't change this. I'm also horrified that we as Indian people continue to use the word blood quantum because it's a racist term. And just to let it slide past our Indian lips is horrifying. So we've stopped calling it blood quantum, we just say BQ now. But mostly I'm proud that we are here today, and I'm going to go ahead and read this resolution because it's so important. And there's still, like on the title, I put Title 12, it's supposed to say Article 12. The Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Constitution Reform Delegation comprised of members from Boysport, Fond du Lac, Grand Portage, Leech Lake, White Earth, and pending recognition, Sandy Lake. Article 2 of the revised Constitution and the bylaws of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe prescribe the criteria for membership. And the term Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Indian blood has been defined by Minnesota Tribal Executive Committee to be derived from one or more of the 6 constituted reservations of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe. And the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Constitution Reform Delegation finds that the current membership provision is too restrictive, and the members of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe do reject the term blood quantum and its measurement of blood due to its racist origin, and its obvious intent to exterminate the Anishinaabe from existence. Blood quantum shall be stricken as a provision of membership to the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe to include all Boys Fort, Fond du Lac, Grand Portage, Leech Lake, White Earth, and pending recognition, Sandy Lake. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Constitution Reform Delegation demands the elimination of blood quantum as a term and a qualification for membership, and supports the use of direct lineage for the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe membership. And furthermore, the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Delegation recommends approval of the no amendment shall be effective until approval of the Secretary of Interior within Article 12, and any reference to Article 12 as the Six Nations are sovereign and do operate as such in all matters concerning their member citizens. I think that one of the reasons that we put that in there is because in order for us to put this on the ballot in our next election, we really do need to get the Secretary of Interior out of our Constitution, because we are sovereign nations, and it's about time we start making those decisions, making our choices. And as I've had lots of discussions with people from the tribal leadership to citizens in different groups, we have some people who feel this way, but most people feel that this resolution comes before you today, and that we need you to accept it, and let's move forward. Miigwech.
Miigwech.
Do we have public comment on it?
Sure.
When our ancestors agreed to the treaty, agreed to the blood quantum requirement, they never thought our blood would be so diluted, that we would fall below 1/4. Now I have a sister-in-law that's full-blooded. One parent is from Mille Lacs, the other is from Turtle Lake. She's full-blooded Ojibwe, but she's only recorded as half. If we are to expand our membership, it should be with our Ojibwe blood. It should include other Ojibwe people before we move forward to increasing our enrollment at all. I'm angry that we have delegates who have only became delegates for the constitutional reform in order to promote their enrollment of their children who couldn't be enrolled, or their grandchildren. I'm angry that, why do we have to, it's like the European people have always taken from us. And now they took our culture, our language, our land, and now they want to be Indian. It's not right. And when that vote came up, not all the delegates voted. And when the White Earth Secretary Treasurer comes up there and goes to a constitutional reform meeting that I'm at, and he gives out misinformation, he brings up the Wilder research paper, which was involved in Irma Bismarck's illegal constitutional reform, and he says, if we do not include our descendants, then we would no longer exist. He purposely, intentionally neglected to mention that report was based on if we were never with another Native person. And it's like, am I racist? Hell no. Do I believe in our people? Yes. If somebody is even one drop of Native blood, they should not be denied our culture or our ceremonies. But we as a people, we need to stay with our blood quantum, who we are, to be who we are. Because who we are is in our DNA. And I asked that there be a no vote. I went to those meetings and I said, you know what? We either do no change and keep the blood quantum, or if we were to increase it, increase it by including other Ojibwe blood. Maybe 5 or 10 years after that, include maybe other tribal blood. Somebody actually posted on my Facebook, they said, if we increase membership, we'll get more funds. I said, you know what, that's asinine. That's like somebody on welfare thinking that if they had more children, they get more money. It's like, I know we have descendants that are so involved in our community. But I also know people who are enrolled that don't participate. They are ruled by another bloodline, dominated by another bloodline that has nothing, not even close to our culture. And it's like, that's what I want to prevent. And you know what, I'll tell you something, if I had children, and they had children, and they had children, all the way down the line, 100 years from now, and we're never with another native, it'd be hell if somebody could tell me they're not native. But as for our enrollment, you know what, if we say no blood quantum, guess what? We're encouraging our people to be with other races, diluting our blood, polluting it. And it's like there are people that are not gonna like what I'm saying because they can't enroll their children or their grandchildren, but you know what? They could still have children that are enrolled if they make the right choices. So it's like, with almost half of the delegates not voting, it's not fair because there were a lot of them online that weren't able to submit a vote. And for that vote to go to the cities off the reservation, it's not right. I know people that are enrolled. I never hear from them just to say, oh, how are you? But when that COVID money came out, they're like, how do you get the COVID money? How do we get it? And they weren't raised within the community. They didn't give a shit about our community. But when it came to getting, they got. And it's like, I say no. And I have people who contacted me and said, Nita, tell them no, don't accept it. It's like, I want to be a part of a community that is native. I don't want some bullshit about, oh, it was love. Well, where was the love for your people?
Miigwech.
Who's you again? Sorry about that. I did get a little correction here. I'm not understanding a lot of the rules, but I do want to say that this whereas in the beginning does include and should include all of us because we are all members of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe, and that I took out Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe because somebody had asked me to, but I'm putting that back in on this as an amendment to this article. But I also want to read a statement that I forgot to state earlier. This statement comes from one of our members, and she has been a member of this whole civic engagement since day one. And her statement reads, Mille Lacs Band of Delegates will not participate in this effort. We also request a whereas clause that expressly states that the Mille Lacs Band delegation did not participate in the consideration of and will not be bound by this resolution as adopted. So I'd like to just say, let's amend that first sentence. We need to include all of our tribes, but also know that this is a statement coming forward from one of our very prominent members in our community of membership and of this delegation who's been actively engaged since day one. Miigwech.
Miigwech.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Carrie D. Aspinwall here from the Twin Cities. And I have some things to share with you, and I'm going to spread some documents around, and I'm going to talk as I go. So,
all right.
So today I come to you all.
I'm not sure the other ones on the screen can hear you if you don't take the mic.
Oh.
I don't know how you're going to do that.
No, I can do it. I can multitask.
You can multitask?
Yeah, I can multitask.
Yep, I can. You can hear me too, huh?
I can hear you fine. Good morning, everyone. I'm coming to you first to acknowledge that the Twin Cities is made up of many of our tribal members. I cannot speak on behalf of my own delegation. All of our members that are off reservation need to speak through their delegations. And so that's the way I'm coming to. I'm not speaking on behalf of any one delegation, only that we held a meeting down in the Twin Cities. We were asked to host, we weren't asked, we were volunteered to host the meeting on June 18th. And we did so gladly. It's been 2 years since the convention came to Minneapolis. The first one was held in 2019 at Division of Indian Works. Since then, and included in your packets, our processes, our successes, our challenges, and the purpose of that meeting on June 18th was to provide a update to our urban members that aren't able to get to the reservation or get to their own delegations from month to month. And so with that, it's been a difficult road to figure out what's first, what's second, who speaks, who doesn't speak, who's included and who's not. But I can tell you, this convention has worked really super hard to agree by consensus on some of the issues that you have within your packet, and particularly when called out to specifically focus on enrollment, which was in fact one of our top 5 priorities after this delegation at our Twin Cities meeting in 2019. So again, we have processes by which we have to operate in order to gain consensus from each delegation. And we in the Twin Cities and off-reservation feel grateful that our voices are included. We are grateful that we have come to a place where we feel like our electeds and our membership and this convention are of one voice and are moving towards change. I don't want to speak against this resolution that's presented, but words matter. Words significantly matter. Process matters. We are not an authoritarian kind of group that can present resolutions. That's you guys' job. We're here to make recommendations. We asked our sisters to take a cut at the poll, at representing the poll that was taken at the in the Twin City area. On your agenda, you will see that it says poll. It isn't a vote. It wasn't a consensus driving action. It was to give the urban people an idea of where everybody was at. The document that was shared with you this morning as a resolution has created great strife between all of the bands. I've spent all Sunday since it came out, Monday driving up here, my emails, my text messages. This is not what we said. This is not what we said. Mille Lacs wouldn't stand up and tell us in writing that it isn't what they said if it wasn't what was said. We agreed with the process to dismantle, and we did put together, to put together what we were titling as a position and an update to you all what was happening at that June 18th meeting. Sure, we had some glitches, but again, we were trying to be inclusive. We were trying to get the message out that we were all on the same page. We weren't calling for people to make a decision on anything. We weren't ready. Nobody was ready for what was presented. Even after all of the input that I received that was forwarded in these strings and strings and strings of emails didn't get included. Why? I'm not sure, and I'm not here to talk about what was not included, but I can tell you that on behalf of the urbans and the ones that, and maybe even the ones that were there representing the bands, and the young lady that spoke before me, it is important that those bands are present, and that there was somebody at each of those tables. So again, I can't speak for everybody. All I'm saying is that The MTC delegates took under deep consideration and engagement the issue of Article 2, which was membership. Each delegation with the support of the Twin Cities off-reservation and Sandy Lake members present by consensus the following collaborative action on the issue of enrollment. So this, we're not demanding anything. We are not, the Twin Cities doesn't feel like we're in a position to demand anything, and I do believe that I've got other delegations that can stand up and speak for themselves on this, but I can say for Minneapolis, we're not demanding. We're not in a position to do that. We support, though, dismantling the process of blood quantum within that Article 2. Removing blood quantum from our constitutional documents. We also seek an action of the TEC in collaboration with our citizen members to eliminate the use forever. We are talking about a process to get us to, if you just start striking stuff out like this on demand, that is going to impact a lot of other areas that need to be adjusted anyways, but we don't believe throwing everything into chaos is the way to go. Each delegation, with the support of the Twin Cities and off-reservation and Sandy Lake members, by consensus support a collaborative citizen membership strategy which replaces blood quantum potentially with direct lineage. The Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Convention closed its gathering on the 18th with much celebration and hope. We continue to look forward to the support and action as requested, which is just simply guidance and collaboration, in determining the next steps, including collaborating on the exact ballot language and inclusion within the upcoming general election. This is what was offered. It didn't get reflected in that resolution. I don't want to come up here and be, begrudge all this stuff. The ladies from the TEC committee, Cheryl and Sally, were asked. We have our meeting minutes written, and we also have our Zoom transcription as well to go back to. But it's as the host that day, I can say this is not the tone or tenure that we were trying to convey or that was conveyed on our behalf. But again, we needed to have more input on this. We have a process. Sure, blood quantum is super important and a priority. Potentially direct lineage. I've heard from many on and off the reservation that this is a good way to go, but words matter. We want to make sure that we get it right, that we have the consultation of our legal, the support of you guys, and most importantly, the support of our membership, because when the time comes, we're going to have to vote. And if they're confused from the very beginning of this thing, this is all going to fail. And many of us, and all of the folks out in Zoom land, our Zoomers, will be left behind once again. And that's too much effort to make go to waste. So I'm just here to make sure that you all understand where Twin City was coming from, that you have the documents, the documentation that shows what the intent of the meeting was, and the documentation of the actions. There was no actions. The documentation of what really happened that day on the 18th. There's many that are sitting in this room today that I hope you hear from in this regards, and so I will leave that.
I guess at this point, enrollment is such an important issue, along with many other important issues that face us as not only our specific band membership, but our Minnesota Chippewa Tribe members. And I really believe that it's time that we start moving forward with the enrollment process and figuring something out. And I was trying to think, and this has really been bothering me for some time now, because we've been talking about this, and some of you older TEC meetings here, TEC members that have been here for so long, know how long this enrollment process has been talked about. And when I saw the resolution coming from the Minneapolis meeting, or from the delegation, I thought, you know, that is a resolution by the delegation, and we've come far, I think, as a TEC, where we have actually started the constitutional reform. That was talked about and talked about and talked about. And we kept saying, well, we're gonna start taking things off the shelf and dealing with them. And enrollment has been such a huge issue that it just keeps getting talked about and talked about and talked about. Other tribes in Minnesota, and I'm sure across the nation, are dealing with the enrollment issue themselves. The Dakota tribes, the Red Lake Band, they're all dealing with the enrollment issue themselves. The Minnesota Chippewa Tribe has 40,000 plus members that need to decide about the enrollment. We can sit here as TEC members, but we were elected by our people to represent our people. And by representing our people, we need to bring this issue to the people. And so what I would like to have discussion on with the TEC members today is the possibility of passing a motion regarding a referendum on enrollment. And on that referendum, that it be decided by the members of the MCT that each band should be able to determine their own enrollment. We are sovereign nations. I know at Boys Fort we've talked, and we want, our people want to determine our own enrollment. I'm not sure about the other bands, but we are sovereign nations. There are other tribes in the United States that are under an umbrella, and I'll use the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe in a scenario here as an umbrella, that govern themselves and determine their own enrollment, but they're still under that umbrella. The constitutional delegation has done a wonderful job, and I really value your work. It's a hard job, and when I look at enrollment, I look at it as a Google map, and I use scenarios like that because you have a direction you want to go. You have a destination you want to get to. But sometimes that map offers you many ways to get there, okay? Well, with our constitutional delegation, we've given you the impossible, and I'm going to say it's going to be impossible to come up with what everybody wants. And the only way that can be done is by the members voting. And so when we have that vote completed, that referendum, we will have a direction. We will have one direction to go rather than 3 or 4. Do we include other Chippewa blood? Do we include First Nations blood? Do we do this? Do we do that? If our membership talks, that's the direction we go. And so I think that would help with the Constitution reform. It would give us more, I guess, direction again on where we need to go and how we need to do it. If they vote it down, we'll try something else. But we have to keep bringing it to the membership. And yeah, it's going to cost money, but you know what? It's worth it. It's very well worth it because I think our membership and even our tribal leaders here and our ancestors and everybody else, they thought they were doing what was right at that time. Well, I think it's now time for us to do that, to feel that we should be able to do that this time and start dealing with the issue rather than keep meeting and meeting and meeting and meeting. We can talk forever, but what matters is action. And so that's what I am proposing today, because I don't want to see us tear each other apart either. I don't want to see differences. I don't want to see it come to a point where it's a he said, she said thing, and we're all one. We're all together. We're all the same people. But we need to decide, and our membership needs to decide. I can't decide it. I don't feel comfortable making a decision that the membership has to vote on. Yes, sir. You'll be second.
Anin, Douglas Lee, Indigenous Cause, Gawawa, Began Kagin Lunjaba. It's good to see all these faces. So, at the meeting Friday, everything's kind of blown up since then, but it was a vote amongst the delegates as to if we wanted to get rid of blood quantum, right? And then there was another question on would we do lineage? And then there was another question, which I wasn't able to get in the picture that I posted on Facebook because there was somebody standing right in front of me, but it was, what would you do if it wasn't blood quantum? And there were some, Carrie might have brought those suggestions with, right? And then somebody brought forward a draft resolution that they had written up, and they read it to the group, and everybody thought that sounded really good. It just had to be touched up, and then that kind of morphed over the weekend into what you guys see before you today. And it's caused, you know, as somebody said, caused a little bit of a rift. Everybody's very passionate about this. It's a, you know, it's the big thing that I believe that we have to discuss and talk about. Is the BQ, right? So all I know is that this was instilled upon us. This blood quantum was instilled upon us by the federal government. It was a way to design getting rid of us. And I don't know why some people want to hold on to it. They say, you know, whatever. I don't know where it's going to go from here. But we have to, like Kathy was saying, like you all were saying, the people have to decide. So as delegates, we have a duty. I said duty. So we have a duty to listen to the members and what they say in this, and bring it to the TEC, to bring it to the people to vote on, right? We don't have the authority to change the Constitution. We only are listening to the members, talking amongst ourselves, bringing something to the TEC to bring back to the people, right? And it's been happening for, well, right now, I think we're moving. There's some momentum. I would actually like to suggest that we call a special delegation meeting in a couple weeks besides our regular scheduled meeting, because it's that important and I don't want to lose this momentum. There's people coming forward and they're like, let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, what you were talking about with the referendum vote or not. I think that the delegation, we need to come back together and we really need to talk about what you're talking about. We need to get, there's more people coming out and more people participating now. White Earth we were talking all weekend long. Yesterday, last night we were on Zoom till 8. You know, and we're talking about getting in touch with our community councils, getting their schedules, so that we can have somebody showing up to each one to gather the information. You, I have right now.
Which? There's a young lady in the back. Yep.
Zoom. I'm Nancy Bolio, Minnesota Chippewa Tribe, Anishinaabe. And I just, not here to tell people how to vote if, you know, and when that referendum vote takes place, but there are some facts that should be put forth in educational pieces. And, you know, someone, you know, some people might think, well, we don't have enough resources. And if we open our enrollment, we're all going to suffer even more. Well, my work with Rock the Vote Native Style brought me into the world of the census. And under those treaty obligations, there's those ongoing obligations, and part of that is the census. We have failed to report a meaningful census that would actually help our hospitals, our schools, everything on our reservations. That's a treaty obligation to our people. And our preamble says to protect our natural resources for our people and our descendants. And I remember when Farron was running for office, he said, no, Leech Lake, we're left behind. Well, there should be no child left behind. I barely made an enrollment, I put Chumukamani claim. My children were not allowed to get enrolled even though their father is from Bad River. Their grandma is full blood from St. Croix. But the Indian Reorganization Act drew some borders. And like you mentioned earlier, Ms. Shavers, we are one people. And the government will continue to owe us as long as there's people here, tribes. But when the Indian Reorganization Act took place, blood quantum, it's mathematical genocide, then they won't owe us nothing. And as Minnesota Chippewa Tribe, we keep talking about self-determination, or each our own tribe. No, we're not. That's the government's way of thinking. We are one people. But yet, every meeting I come to, we're so divided. We don't even support each other as Minnesota Chippewa Tribes anymore. I was lucky enough to find money to help my kids get through school because they weren't even eligible for JOM because they weren't enrolled. Talk about no children left behind. Our ancestors wouldn't want that. My two youngest are more Native than I am, but yet no tribe will recognize them. And no, it's not about the money. This ain't welfare. It's treaty agreement. If we did our part and did the census the way we need to, people wouldn't be worried about less resources going around if we opened our enrollment. We're supposed to take care of each other. That's one of our teachings. But yet we sit here months and years later trying to figure out our blood quantum when we should just have good heart to know what to do. Again, my children are more Native than I am, and they cannot be enrolled because we continue to feed into the IRA as a way to oppress us and divide us and break us down. It's time to be sovereign as one people. Not defend your own tribe. We are a tribe. If you look up our preamble, it says the people constitute the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe. And you have to reground yourselves in the preamble and our Constitution and our treaties. We're at a point in history where we need to protect ourselves. Where we need to stand as one Minnesota Chippewa Tribe. Here I come again watching another issue that we can't get along because we all want to be one tribe and not support the other tribe. You are leaving our children behind. You left mine.
Wait, Nancy.
Cheryl Edwards and Ninjishnakas. I got you when I'm Ninjipa. Because Ninjure. People are talking about policies and procedures here. Well, I want to remind everybody that our constitutional delegation does have some policies and procedures in place, and we do want to hear from all of our citizens, members, whatever you want to call yourselves. But we do have some things put into place so that the delegates will listen to the people. On Friday, we spent 6 hours listening to very important testimony at our meeting. Very important to hear from all our urban people. I hope we can come to a solution on that because we're spending an awful lot of time listening to testimony during our meetings and we're unable to do the work because we're listening to testimony. I don't want to get much further into that right now, but we do need to have a special meeting. This is very, very important to every single one of us. Whether we are privileged enough to be full-blood or not. Somebody alluded earlier to the fact that everybody ahead of us was trying to do things in a good way. Everybody ahead of us was having this discussion in a good way. I'd like to continue that discussion. I would like our members and citizens to contact their delegates, because the delegates need to sit at the table and do the work. The delegates are volunteers. The delegates do their work at any hour of the day or night, whenever it is convenient for them. That does not necessarily mean that we can have public meetings all the time. We need the people to use the delegate group. That's my point here. Because if the delegates don't hear from the people, we can't do your work. Meet you.
Which, Sharon wants to speak. Oh, go ahead, Sharon.
Bonjour. I just have two things to say. My name is Sharon Day. I'm enrolled here at Boys Fort, and always happy to be here. And what I want to say is that what I said last Friday was that if we took resources off the table, if that was not on the table, there would be no discussion about lineage versus blood quantum. We would simply go with lineage. And you know, when you look at any government, whether it's the United States, the state of Minnesota, or one of our bands, a small number of people use the services provided by that government. If you look at even public welfare, where we try to provide for our children, a small, very small percentage of the population ever have need for those services. But when they do have a need for those services are there even as limited as they are. And I can tell you that and I'm just about to be 70, and except for the 1854, the treaty money where the contract with the state where they pay us not to use our treaty rights in the ceded territory, aside from that, and the $35 gift card you send me at the holidays, those are the only services I've ever used. And that is the same for my children and my grandchildren. Do they wish to be a citizen of Boys Fort? Yes, they do. And so that is what we're talking about. If we took resources off the table, there would be no question. And, you know, sometimes people say, well, people just want to be enrolled for, you know, the funds they would receive. Well, for most of us, there are no funds to receive. It's simply a matter of cultural, we wish to be citizens of our nations. And so I'll say that take resources, this issue of resources off the table, and it's not even a discussion. And we know from history that nation states that are powerful because they have a resource, and that is people. And yet we're looked at as a deficit. We should be looked at as a resource. We are, aside from the land and the water, we are the greatest resource. And so accept us. You know, follow those 7 sacred teachings of love, generosity. Have some courage. Stand up. We elected you to do that. And same thing as, you know, all the delegates, we all volunteered. You know, we all do this on top of everything else we do because we care. And I'll end there, but I want to say one last thing, and that is about the water. Most of you know that, you know, I care deeply about the water. I've led over 21 water walks, not only within the state of Minnesota, but across the country. Missouri, the Ohio, the James River, you know, walked many, many rivers, just speaking to the spirit of that water. And when our water is being depleted, 5 billion gallons, that is such an assault on our Mother Earth, on our land, on our water. And my fear is that if you wait until July to say something, it will be too late. It will be too late for the rights issue. And that is our, you know, that is why we came here to this place, for the wild rice, for sacred food. So I hope that, you know, that you hear me and other people, and say miigwech for all of your work and for your time.
Quick, Sharon.
Okay, hold on. I'll just be real close. I'll just be real short here today. I just basically came here today to listen to the delegation committee. You know, I don't like to do too much talking here. I like to listen, and you know, and Miss Wolio back sitting in the back room there, you know, my grandchildren are not eligible for JOM services either. So yeah, I know the feeling, you know, and I've kind of talked about this over and over, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record where I keep repeating, you know, the same dialogue. You know, I can sense a little dissension here with the MCT delegation committee group, and that's not a good thing. You know, that's not a good thing, but I think we can work through this too. You know, as Anishinaabe people, I think we can resolve this and we can work through this. Things as important as what we're talking about today, it opens up a lot of avenues, you know, because not everybody wants to do things the same way, and that's okay. And you know, this in Constitution and blood quantum issues we're talking about, we know it was written by the government, by the Europeans. It wasn't written by any Anishinaabe people. So we talked about what's causing all this chaos and confusion, and now we're trying to work this out, and we're kind of all kind of in a big barbed wire here too. But at the same time, I know there is strength in numbers, you know, and all 6 tribes might want to do something different in a different way. That doesn't mean they don't care about the brother and sister tribes by any means. You know, you look at the 3 affiliated tribes in the Dakotas, you know, the affiliated tribes, Mandan, Bismarck, and the other tribes over there, you know, they still sit down at the table and discuss issues that are relevant to their respective tribes, but they're not locked into this MCT type of agreement like we are here, but they still sit down and talk. And that's the way, you know, we want to handle our affairs too here, is we want to respect each individual's tribe sovereign rights, you know, and that's what it's about. And like Nancy alluded to, yeah, when I ran for Leech Lake people, you know, and I still do, you know, and I've been advocating that we need to revise our enrollment process since our late chairman, Eli Hunt, was the chairman. We talked and went to numerous meetings, and the meetings always kind of ended in the same way they're ending today. It's just people are all confused, and you can feel tension, dissension, and that's not the way we want to proceed here. That's not the way I want to proceed here. You know, and you know, everybody's important. You know, and so we gotta look at the big picture. You know, we're never gonna come to 100% consensus if that's what we're trying to get to. It's not gonna happen. So we gotta acknowledge it that way. You know, and like I said, I wanna respect the other tribes, the way they wanna identify their membership. And I hope they would do the same for us here on Leech Lake. How we wanna recognize our members and still be a part of the MCT. You know, and anytime there's discussion about we want to pull away from the MCT or they no, don't do that, you know, but we don't want to be restrictive either. We want to be a part of an organized body that respects each other's sovereign rights as a tribe. And I'd like to encourage some of the TEC members to kind of put a comment or opinion out here too, instead of sitting here mum, you know, just kind of say something. It always seems to be the same group of members that do the majority of the speaking. We need a more well-rounded discussion on this that includes the TEC members. You know, that's the way we can move forward on this, you know, tough issue that we're dealing with today. And whatever the delegation and our membership wants to start off with, you know, I'm on board with that. Because we always talked about we need a starting point here. Not a finished product by any means, but a starting point. You know, and that's what we have to do for the sake of our children that are in limbo here. You know, can't receive these education dollars or some of the equal help. And you know, a lot of our members, they're pretty self-sufficient. They made their own way in life, and they will continue to do that. Just like being a citizen of the United States. We're born into the United States as a citizen, and we make our own way through jobs, purchasing homes, and doing things. We're not trying to have these kids get enrolled because they're going to grab up all these services. That's not what it's all about. It's like the lady was saying, they want to have be acknowledged and identified as a member. You know, and that speaks volumes right there. So everybody's always worried about resources, they're always worried about money, they're always worried about that's not the way Anishinaabe people thought. It's never that's not in our DNA. We would rather give than take. I'm not going to take anything away from you. So we got to really bear down and think like that, you know, and agree to disagree sometimes. But we don't want to call anybody out and put anybody down by any way, you know, by anybody's imagination, because otherwise it puts a sour note in all of our hearts when we go home after these meetings, like nothing was accomplished, and we want to keep moving forward. So like I said earlier, when I speak, my intentions are never to offend anybody or disrespect anybody. Miigwech.
Phil? Okay, hang on. Go ahead, I'll let her speak. Go ahead, Phil, first, and then we'll let you speak.
Okay, yeah, I think it's important to distinguish between the constitutional amendment process.
Okay.
So pursuant to our constitution, it does provide the opportunity for the TEC to authorize a referendum to go out to the people. That's really just a question saying, do you think we should pass this? Do you think we should go in this direction? So based on the result of that referendum, that's pursuant to Article 9 referendum. And the referendum is different. It just is a question, and the answer of that question is based on the majority of the people that voted in favor. So. But it's like asking, you know, you're sitting around asking what to order for dinner, and that's what, you know, you get a majority of people, and that's your instruction to take on it. So.
Thank you for that clarification, Phil. Yes, ma'am.
Let's take resources off the table, but let's also take off any kind of political play on enrollment. If everybody knows our history, we were originally from the East Coast, and we were not living the good life. In fact, we were becoming very corrupt. And then the prophecy came, the mega shell came out of the water and said for us to live where the food table and the water. What should be on the top of our agenda right now is our resources. Table the blood quantum thing right now. Anchorage a couple of years ago was granted, was given the right to take millions of our water, just recently 4.7 billion. That interferes with our wild rice beds. That's why we're here. Blood quantum needs to be tabled. And our wild rice, the reason why we're here, should be on top of our agenda.
Just as an FYI, we are looking at a special meeting before July for the water issue. And so just talking with Alan, we will try to get a special meeting before July.
We're gonna be out of water by then.
We
need an ASAP.
Just really quick, like I just wanted to make
Order,
clear,
please.
that when I just spoke here, it was not about resources. We need hospitals, we need law enforcement, we need schools. We have a lot of people that have opportunity to go get a good job like some of y'all got. So, it's not about handouts. I haven't ever lived on any myself. I've always worked hard. It's about some of our relatives who don't have opportunity because there's not enough jobs to go around in Indian country, and in the white man's world there's discrimination. So our people do depend on these resources, and yes, I respect self-identity and belonging to our people. And when I say my child were left behind, they were. That was not a personal attack. I'm just reiterating some of the things that you guys have promised us or swear to help us with. And again, the Indian Reorganization Act created what we're talking about today. And just because I'm frustrated and I bring my points across, people get like butthurt. That's not fair. That's why people don't come up here and speak. Because I just got tossed under the bus because I said what was in my heart. And I know the census is important. You guys wouldn't even be paid if it wasn't for the Indian Reorganization Act. So y'all got good jobs. You don't have to depend on those resources. But many of our people do. And when I spoke about the census, it was about really making some good effort to make that happen. So we can continue on and have schools, police departments, health care, food distribution. I spoke in those because of their treaty obligations. I'm not speaking because I'm looking for a handout. And I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, but somehow it always feels that the people rarely get a chance to speak. And when we do, we get treated in a different, some kind of way, and that's not right. And if you think waiting for our resources to protect them in July, that's a little too late. They're already pumping water out. There you guys go again, self-determination. Well, that 5 billion gallons that Ember just heisted from us violates the Winters Doctrine. It violates our basic right to life, water. I just spent 8 days at the Mississippi. And right before my eyes, I watched that water table, that water level in that river in 8 days. Dropped so low, a canoe couldn't even pass through. And that was the Mississippi. There's a sense of urgency here. We can't wait till July for the next quarterly meeting to make a decision. Sometimes we can't operate on this colonized schedule. Water is a priority. What good is anything else without clean water? That issue should not be tabled or talked about later. It should be talked about today. Again, it's the people out there putting their lives on the line to protect our water, because our Minnesota Chippewa Tribe says, it's not my problem because I'm exercising self-determination for my reservation and screw the other reservation. That is so wrong. And again, Fond du Lac never took a referendum vote to cross through MCT line twice. Again, you fail to listen to the people, but now you're talking a referendum vote on blood quantum? What about our water? We need water to worry about our blood quantum.
Stop the reservation.
But then again, I'm the one with the big mouth because I'm not afraid to come up here. You can go ahead and throw me under the bus all you want. I'm used to it. I'm not going to keep showing up for the 7th generations that you guys should really think about here. Read the preamble to protect our natural resources for our people and our descendants. What does that mean to you? Is the preamble our foundation of what leadership looks like? Or isn't it? We've been talking line 3 for years. And again, we'll talk about it later. Later's too late now. I know, I've seen what's out there. And again, line 3 should be shut down because again, it runs through MCT land twice on the lap. And we're not going to let that go. That's our land. That's the people's land. And Bridge, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, blatantly admitted in their findings or hearings that they're violating our treaties, and you're just going to sit there and let them do that in a water heights? This is the one time at least where MCT should say, hey, we agree on one thing, we all need clean water. And every single tribe, no matter what decisions you make, what your enrollment looks like, you all need clean water. And it can't wait till July. They're pumping right while we're talking.
Thank you, Nancy.
Aning Buju, Manekis are indigenous Kajaganashi, and Minnesota, in the Gubanese, and the name, Mokmanigan singing, and Dandas, Kakami, and how you go, Gawa Babagan Kanya, Shkonigan, in Danoke. My name is Renee Kieser. I'm the pesticide coordinator for White Earth. I have my degrees in environmental science with an emphasis in environmental health and toxicology and indigenous studies. I received an email on May 14th that was forwarded to me, and so it was not intended for me, about an upcoming meeting that was on May 27th with the DNR regarding the new permitting for the dewatering process. The original permit that they had applied for was for 510.5 million gallons, and they were looking at burning through that before the end of June. And so there was a need for a new permit. They had known for months. They knew for months that this permit was needed. They had had an open comment period for the Soil Water Conservation District, 13 different districts. No comment was submitted. They had an open comment period from March 11th until April 11th, or March 10th until April 11th for the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. When we had our meeting on the 7th, there was about 5 or 6 people in there, including the host, which was Mr. Doneen from the DNR down in St. Paul, where he informed us that they were issuing them their permit for an additional 4.7 billion gallons of water. And we had brought up, Charlie Lippert from Mille Lacs had brought up where on the infiltration rates and where they're going to put this water after they take it out, what rate they're going to be taking it out at 800 gallons per minute. The infiltration rates, even with like the most permeable soils, like your sand and your bigger rocks, is 1.64 inches per hour, and they're taking 800 gallons per minute. And where is that water going to go? It's not going to soak right back in. It's not going to
you know, it's gonna flow all over, and with the heat that we've had, we're seeing their water levels drop. We're seeing an increase in, or a decrease in the oxygen in our water. With the current climate change, the Minnesota waters, a study done on the Minnesota waters, our waters are warming up at 9 times the rate of the oceans. We are gonna lose our fish, we're gonna lose our medicines, we're losing our rice. People at home are crying right now because they don't even know if they're gonna have a rice harvest this year on Big Rice, on Lower Rice Lake. We had asked for an additional meeting for June 7th, which the DNR had agreed to, so that we could confer with our council, we could confer with our colleagues. The following day, I received an email that we were not gonna have that meeting and they were gonna push the permit through. They did not give the tribes proper consultation. They did not give us proper comment period. I had asked if they had, if this was an amendment to the permit or if it was a new permit, and they stated it was a new permit, which means it needs to go through that process. They violated 19-24 by not having the proper consultation. And the way that our waters are here is it's like if you have a bowl of cereal and you pour the milk in and your cereal floats up, you don't see that milk at the very bottom of your bowl. But now with the heat wave and with the drought, you have one straw in there with the farmers that are watering the crops. You got another straw in there, which is Enbridge, pulling out all this water so that they can put their pipeline through. Because they can't have any water in that trench while that pipe goes through. And then you have another straw in there, which is all the construction workers that are pulling out the water so they can keep their dirt roads dust free while the trucks go back and forth. And what happens is you don't see that going down. You can see your cereal on top, and if you have little like spaces between your Cheerios, you can see like that's a little lake, that's a little river. But that whole water table is dropping. And it's affecting everything because all of our waters are connected. And we are gonna see such a dramatic biodiversity loss with all the plants, the trees. Our trees, we're losing our boreal forest because of the climate change, and this is just expediting that. We're losing our fish, our lakes are drying up, and we're losing our rice, and the tribes were not properly consulted. And I think that you need to move on this. You know, this can't wait till July. Come July, there's gonna be species that are going extinct. Come July, there's stuff that's not gonna bounce back when this drought is over. Thank you.
You're going to. Yes, sir.
Ani Anishinaabe, Mountain Clan, congratulations on all you being elected into your spots. Somewhere down the line, your constituents of your Anishinaabe members had a great praise in you. They put their determination for you to protect them. Get humanity, put me here. Put me on Turtle Island. Give me a spot here. All right? Which, for being delegates for us, the Anishinaabe members, to the United States through the MCT. The MCT member, I am also. My name is Dennis St. Clair. Whiter, Mississippi Bandit. We've been doing this since the early 80s. My father, Bill Hayes, protested, I ran from Whiter down to the state hall capitol. I need to be with my staff twice to prevent Whiter for sale. The land wasn't for sale. We're bound by Get Humanity, who put us here through clan members, which we have to go back to, for our enrollment process of being clans, people of the clans. Let's get that straight. We were reorganized because the hereditary chieftain form of government was annihilated by the United States and silenced. So we no longer have headsmen of the clan. We got delegations. We were elected to this position to protect us, through us, to go to the United States and fight on behalf of Anishinaabe. Okay? You sit on this board, I understand it. You have great power to negotiate with the United States. Okay? That's what you're delegated to do for behalf of me and the Anishinaabe people of the clans, once again. When they annihilated us and silenced our leaders, our headsmen, they allowed the interpreters, the mixed bloods, to dictate policies and forms and go to the United States and say, hey, with all this money, give us more money, we can accommodate these privileges and provisions that you have provided for the use of their land. This is our land. We're the original ones. We're put here to protect Mother Earth. She's being hurt right now. Our sacred food is being annihilated. Without that food, we are nobody. So it's our duty, our obligation, to tell our delegates, hey, wake up. This is a state of emergency here. It's your duty to provide, through Robert's Rule of Orders, to make a motion for an emergency meeting immediately to discuss this issue. This is our livelihoods. This is our children's, our grandchildren's. This is our food, our providing by Get Humanity. Nowhere in the world is there any other place that the rice goes on water. We were blessed. We are the sleeping giant. Wake up. You know? We're people of the clans. We're not Minnesota Chippewa Tribe members. We are to the United States. But Anishinaabe, Gitchimanadu, we're people of the clans. Let's get back to that. That would take care of it. Because the 7 teachings that they taught us, that they set forth for us, made me here today through genocidal acts of another nation of people for requesting manifest destination. That does not exist for mine. I'm here. I was never conquered. My grandfathers were never conquered. The Anishinaabe were never conquered. We had peace treaties. So there's a difference there. Okay? So it is your duty by the people that elected you to be delegates on behalf of all of us as clan members to go forth to the United States and protect us, protect Mother Earth. Because that's the form of identity that we're put in and form of government that only can be heard because the United States doesn't want to hear in every individual. They don't got time for that. None of us really do. We all have our own needs, wants, and personal agendas. But this is Mother Earth. We put all that aside. Anishinaabe, Gitchimanadu put us here to protect her. That's our first obligation as Anishinaabe. Miigwech.
Anina Anishinaabe Indot Dema wants to see Indigenous cause was Quomigan. Nagachi Manam and Dunjba. Linwa Wabahigini. I'm 67 years old. I've listened for most of my life. And there's some things that I listen to. I listen to my elders. I also listen to those things that are out there. I don't call them resources, they're our relations. I also pay attention to the history of our people. Awasasi Dode. Anako Bijigan, Ojibwe, is a string of lives that connect us from the past to the future. I love all those people that come before me, and I love all those people that will come after me. In 1847, there was a treaty that was signed in Fond du Lac He was among the Lake Superior Chippewa and the Mississippi Chippewa. Article 4 of that treaty stipulates the half-breeds and the mixed bloods that reside among us in Dinaway, Magani, Duke. Their relatives belong to us. That you know in your hearts. As far as relationships go, Lanoman, DB, we have a relationship with them. And I think if we listen, they'll let us know. All we have to do is love them. They'll be plentiful. It's our relationship with the earth that matters. And that's what we teach our children and Anand, all of our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, all of those that we love from the past to the future. Miigwech Minot.
Miigwech.
My name is Ishwashi Education Class Legacy Dam Gawabanga Anakan Dujaba. Speaking on behalf of Mississippi Band of Later Band member. When I look up here, I see nothing but power, and I see my reservation needs help. All I'm asking to help them, each one of you, is to write a letter to the president, because that's who we answer to. We are unique people. We're not no foreigners to this country. Other people are to us, but we're not. We are unique people in each one of our tribes. We just ask, all I ask is help write a letter to the president. And like Mom then said, this is state of emergency. Our treaty was violated. You know, we can wait till July. Yeah, it's gonna help. If it's gonna help you guys, but it's not gonna help us at home. The next day, me and my mother, after that happened, we went to fed that water, sang a few songs, healing songs, our reserve from what we know, our teachings. But you guys have a lot of power where I'm asking, because our tribal leaders, they're only human, they only do so much too, just like you guys. And I just want to ask if you guys can help them write the letter to the United States, to the president, because our treaty was violated. And let's open our eyes and help each other as power for people, you know.
Hello, I'm Harry Stenoy Jr. from the Black Band of Ojibwe. Just wanted to clarify a couple things. First, the statement that was made by one of our delegates wasn't just by the one delegate, it was by all of us from the Black Band delegates. We also, our opinion is each tribe write their own enrollment criteria separate from the MCT. We don't support revising Article 2 unless it states own bands will determine their own enrollment. On the resolution, there was no discussion, and it was created by 2 delegates without preliminary input from the entire delegation. And we also object to the Sandy Lake language in there. Thank you.
Language.
Oh, no.
Michelle Hackler, Eastman, addition has.
Order, please.
Oh, God.
Get you on the reading. I'm Grant Portage Rowley, I live in Duluth. I was at the Twin Cities meeting. I've been involved in the constitutional delegate group from the beginning of this round. I understand there was a previous round that some of our delegates have been putting their time into and heart, and so just wanted to maybe give you a little clarification. You are seeing some dissension here, but that's kind of who we are. All right, that's part of our process. I wouldn't get overly worked up about that, thinking we're about to implode. We argue, and we talk, and we discuss, and eventually we get to a good place. And unfortunately, because of the timing of the meetings, some of that's coming out today. So there isn't really a lot of hard feelings here. We aren't at an impasse. There's been a lot of ideas floated around.
and a lot of them being considered, and nothing's really been ruled off the table yet. And one of our goals was to get something on the ballot. We hadn't decided what, but if you're willing to put a few questions in there and work with us on that, we're all about that. I mean, absolutely. We always remind each other that we need to involve the whole constituency, not just us in the room, not just you guys. We realize that's a big, everybody needs to be able to weigh in on that. And the idea of each band making their own enrollment, you know, that kind of seems maybe that's gonna be our default, right? We are not opposed to that. Some of us have some concerns that because that's going to happen, there's gonna be a wide variety of rules that may create some kind of tensions, and some being very restrictive, and some being very loose, and how will that affect? So when we're thinking about all these ideas, we try to look down the road. What kind of effect is it gonna have? What are the possible consequences? And that's part of the reason it's taking so long, because we're trying to work through all that, just to make some good decisions so that this can last. And we're not gonna end up creating more problems than we're solving. Right? So we've kind of always advocated for kind of careful thought, moving forward, lots of discussion, and really trying to get everybody to give their input and get those ideas out there. Okay, so the delegate group's doing good, and yeah, we need to do some more talking, but we will. We're not at an impasse, and we don't need each other. There are no Anishinaabe. You.
Miigwech. Oh, Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. So, I want to thank all the folks coming and speaking about the wild rice and the waters and the importance of that. And so I was just conversing with the president there, and we are trying to get something set up, kind of an emergency basis to address this issue. She's informed me that, we want to make sure that our legal team, Frank and Phil, are going to be talking about this today, preferably. And then we got to get the information to the TEC so that they have all the information in front of them so they can make an informed decision. And, I think we could meet as soon as humanly possible upon receipt of the information. You think, Kath?
Yeah, what I told Alan is that right now, it's hard for, I know that water's important and everything, but we don't know what's going on at Whiter. Every detail, like the non-consultation we know about, but when did this start? When did it change? We need everything, you can tell me, but we need everything in front of us so we can use it as a reference, because these decisions are extremely important, and if we're gonna do it, we gotta do it right. Because we need to make sure that the DNR, the MPCA, and the state do what they're supposed to do also. And so we gotta make sure we get this right. We just can't go in there with our guns half cocked, if you excuse my words there, but we need to have everything in front of us.
We do have a resolution that's in draft format that Frank has sent over to Phil. Okay. And so, and I know Renee, thank you for coming up here today. Matter of fact, I do want to say which. She does have a very complete write-up of the facts pertaining and surrounding the situation. And so, Frank and Renee, if we can get that information out to these guys, and then we can try to meet on this as soon as possible.
Yes, and we'll try to do that as soon as we can, but I just want to make sure that everybody has the information.
We can't wait till July.
I know, we're not gonna wait till July. We're not gonna wait till July, believe me. Because, we know that we don't have the water this year. We don't have the rain, we don't have it. We will get it done. But we need you to do your homework and get it to us, so we have it here and we can look at it.
If our team gets it in, can we maybe have a meeting this Friday, as soon as this Friday?
I'm okay with that.
Frank?
We can do a Zoom
Can we
meeting.
get that done by then?
I talked with Bill, we should have a little meeting before we leave today.
Okay.
But if you guys can get together and get something set up, then we'll move forward with it.
And I do want to ask Justin Keyser if you could stand up and talk to the crowd about, we're having a walk for the rice on Thursday.
Sure. Ani Buju, Bobby Benes, this is Kasmaing, and the name Gawa, Bobby Ganaka, the Dujba, the Nishimug, the Bedagos. We've been a part of this, this Line 3 stuff since it was the sandpiper. For them to say that they don't know what's going on, it's they must have their head in the sand, because it's been pretty prevalent for us for the past 8 years. We've been on this 8 years of that. As for the enrollment stuff, 2008, 2009, Ken and I were going to meetings, and this whole delegation stuff was going in, and in 13 years they made any headway on this. You know, I mean, we're still in the same place. 2012, Irma tried to pass a constitution, and it was shot down. You know, I mean, she tried to overthrow everything. It's still the tribal councils until they died, and then they just named the next one on it. But when it comes to the Line 3 stuff, you know, I think that stuff should be tabled, and this Line 3 stuff needs to be dealt with right now. They're moving fast. They're building. You know, they were coming through 2 inlets last week, even. You know, almost all the way up to where they're going to start drilling under the rivers. A couple weeks ago, I was able to take part in some planning on an event that the Rise Coalition had going on, and they occupied a drill pad of Ambridges for 8 days on the Mississippi River, because this pipeline is going underneath the Mississippi River, right in our water table. So what some of the locals did is to draw awareness. They want to have a smudge walk, a prayer walk for the rice, because our water levels have dropped so bad. We went out there last week after the occupation, and it looked like a football field. You know, we'll be lucky if we get a rice crop this year. It ain't anybody's fault, really. You know, we've been trying to blast this out there for years, but what they want to do is on Thursday, 2 days, they want to have this lunch walk. It's been organized by some of the local women. They want to have a marathon around the lake. They're going to run from Big Bear Landing, and they're going to go all the way around Rice Lake. Then they're going to have a walk for the elders and the rest of the community. About I think they said 10 or 11 or something like that. And then they're going to walk from the community center down to the old community center, and then they want to have a feast for the rice at 2 o'clock. So everybody's invited. Come on down, have what you eat. You know, I mean, we need as much membership there. You know, I mean, it'd be a lot different. It was one thing when it was just a couple of us members out there, and we were standing in front of in a line of a pipeline. You know, we have these people, New Collective and stuff like that, they're not from here, but yet they're still shutting down that pipeline. You know, I mean, in solidarity with us. Some of the tactics we don't always agree on, but it's working. You know, I said a long time ago, if they build that pipeline and they get close to Mississippi, I'm gonna go out and shoot at them. Because I've raced that Rice Lake every year since I was a kid. How many of you say you love that rice? That you need that rice for everything. Everything that we are is tied to that rice. That rice is genetic. We share the genetics with that rice. You know, it's our obligation to take care of that. That's why we're here. We need to have this pushed through. We need their backing. We need them to step up and quit going and saying, "Oh, we gotta bow to the state. We have to. The state runs all this." That's BS. Our treaties and everything else make it so that we have a direct government-to-government relationship. That doesn't mean with the state of Minnesota. That means with the United States government. Because we are a nation. We're not just, 6 bands. We're a nation of people. They split us all up with all these different treaties, whether you're Fond du Lac, Bad River, all the way back to Michigan. But we're all the same people. Line 3 feeds directly into Line 5. They're still fighting in Michigan, and we're just still building, even though their governor doesn't want it. Everybody there said no. Why is this foreign corporation building a pipeline in through our land, through our treaty land, through our rice? Do you realize it goes through Shell River, goes through Crow Wing River, cuts right down by Mille Lacs, cuts right down by a lot of the best rice in the world, best rice in Minnesota, the only rice in the world. If that pipeline leaked, it would kill it. It will die along with it because we rely on that so heavily. If we're not willing to stand up for that, I say let them do whatever. You should know me. I'll just go be a white guy right now. Even though I ain't. Even though there'll always be a difference. But if you're not willing to stand up for what you believe in, it's just lip service. Been begging for 8 years. Stand with us. Where's all the people been? When it comes to, we need this from the tribal government and that from the tribal government, you don't need nothing from them. That rice gives you everything you need. Maple bush, sugar bush gives you everything you need. We got away from that too much of this year. Casinos are going to save us. Are we saved? That's all I got to say. The prayer walk, come on down Thursday. They're going to have a marathon prayer walk. We need all the people there.
Can we take a break, short break, because these guys got to check out. So we'll get back and Nancy will be up when we get back. We're going to take a short break till 11 o'clock.
The recording has stopped.
For that, it should be. They already know where they're at. And I better go out and I start very loud. All of the members.
Oh, it's stuff there. You will golf one thing there. Oh, is it? Betty or?